Historian Adrian Wheel has now tracked down the only living relative of John Eric Wilson.
Hi, David. David Greenhoff. Hi.
David Greenhoff was abandoned by his father before the war and adopted.
Well,
he only recently learnt of his father's identity and heard of his wartime experiences. David understands why his father gave in.
He didn't just sort of knock on the recruiting officer's door and say, "Hey, I've had a good idea, I'd like to join the British Freikorps." No. They took him in a cell, took away all his clothes, as I understand it, gave him a blanket and sort of left him there, kept him on starvation rations for several days, and during this time somebody would pop in and out and sort of say, you know, how are you getting on then? Well, it's going to be like this for a long time, although there is an alternative. You could join this new group we're setting up. Well, you see, I suppose at least anyone would at least listen, wouldn't they? Lots of people listened. All right, some people found that unacceptable. I'd sooner starve and die for my country than join such things. But he was a young man, a bit wild, a bit adventurous, and all right then, I'll give it a try, I'll see what you mean.
And if brutality failed, then blackmail was tried. Prostitutes were used as bait in a classic honey trap.
It was illegal under the German military code for prisoners of war to have sexual relationships with German women, and theoretically at least the sentence for that could be death.
Once again, the Germans used British informers and stool pigeons to help blackmail their comrades.
What these British POWs, the informers, were doing there was despicable. They were helping in the mistreatment of their fellow British Commonwealth soldiers, many of whom were frightened, often slightly wounded. They've been brought straight from the front, and they're confronted by a certain amount of violence, a lot of psychological violence, and it's being aided and abetted by this small group of British POWs who are basically doing it for, you know, an extra bottle of beer and a chance to get with a local prostitute.
But brutality and blackmail succeeded. The Germans had now press-ganged 25 British volunteers. It was the beginning, they thought, of a large and powerful force. The next step was to choose a commander. That man was German SS captain Hans Werner Röpke. Recently returned from the Eastern Front, Röpke was specially chosen because he spoke fluent English and admired British culture. Today, Hans Röpke lives in retirement on the outskirts of Frankfurt. Back in 1945, all members of the SS were declared war criminals. For 60 years, Röpke has refused to speak about how he commanded a British SS unit. So this first ever interview had to be recorded secretly.
They came to me and said there's going to be a meeting and they are going to recruit people for the British Freikorps. And this one chap said, well, you've always been so pro-American and pro-English and this and that and the other. And you're just a guy, you have to come with us. And I said, it sounds funny.
Despite Röpke's doubts, his superiors in the SS were determined to press ahead. Full of confidence that the British Freikorps would be a major force, they set up a headquarters and barracks here in the town of Hildesheim near Hanover, the heartland of Nazi Germany. During the war, its population were fervent Nazis, driving out the town's Jews and welcoming Hitler himself, who made several visits here. The Führer was as revered here as anywhere in Germany. Today, Hildesheim is famous for its St. Michaeli cloister. But in 1943, this medieval monastery was commandeered as a Waffen-SS headquarters.
And this was the first headquarters of the British Freikorps. It's an old monastery, a seminary, where originally monks lived. But it was taken over by the SS in the early 1940s, and it was used as an instructional centre for SS recruits. The monks were removed, and these SS recruits moved into the barracks. It was when they arrived here in the spring of 1944 that the British Freikorps began to take on its military character.
They received their SS uniforms. On the collar, the 3 lions of England. On the sleeve, beneath the Nazi swastika, the Union flag of Great Britain and the honorific SS cuff title, British Freikorps, in English. 800 uniforms were ordered, and the first 25 recruits held their inaugural parade on April the 20th, 1944, Hitler's birthday. The British Freikorps was now a fully fledged unit of the Nazi war machine.